Welcome back to the Painting Coach. In this tutorial I'll be showing you how to paint a Vargskyr for your Soulblight Gravelords army. Okay, let's get going with this Vargskyr. So what I've done is I primed him with Wraithbone spray. Any bone colour primer will do. I've painted the base black just to help contrast the model a little. And what we want to do is we just want to get the kind of tones and things sorted. So I'm going to paint him with Skeleton Horde contrast paint. And I'm going to paint this all over. And this is with 5 parts contrast medium to 1 part contrast paint. And what I want to do is I want to keep it moving so it doesn't pool anywhere. But it just kind of stains the model, and when it dries it'll work its way into those recesses. Now I'm not going to paint this over some of the membranes, like the wing membranes. They're going to be different colours, but for all the fur, the face, things like that, I'm going to paint this over all the kind of the flesh and the skin. And like I said, really important, don't let it pool anywhere, because what you do, you just want to discolour the flesh, not let it pool and create really ugly looking areas. So work your way all the way around doing that. Let it dry fully. We'll come back and we'll get to work. Now once that's dry, don't worry about it looking a little bit blotchy in places over the skin, because we're going to do a lot more work with this rather than just, it's not just contrast, but contrast is going to make up the base of it. So what we want to do is just go back to Skeleton Horde, and we're going to work this in towards the centre, so leaving just a very small amount kind of untouched with this. So just the kind of the first couple of hairs, we're going to leave those the lighter colour, and the rest of it we're just going to make darker with the Skeleton Horde. When it comes to the tail, just leave the underside dark, lighter, and the top side darker. And these kind of patches of fur, again, just focus on towards the kind of the middle, and if there's any areas where the Skeleton Horde hasn't run in, just work it in. Take your time, and if you want it to be darker, then you can do it a little bit darker, but I'm just going to build this up very slowly as we go. So work your way around getting that done, let it dry, and we'll come back and just do the darker bits next. Once that's all dry, we're then going to take some Wyldwood, and we're going to use this to really darken down some of the fur. Now if you want to blend some of that so that you've got a kind of thin transition, and you just clean your brush off and just brush it just like that on both sides, and what you'll see is that'll help it blend into the other colours, the Skeleton Horde you've got underneath. So when that dries it'll look pretty good. In terms of how dark this will be, then it's entirely up to you how dark you want it. So again, focusing in on the kind of the middle areas, so the middle bits are the darkest. So work your way around, get that all done, let it dry, we'll come back, and we'll start to make a start on the skin next, and sort of bringing that up to that really light pale colour. So you can do this next bit whilst that Wyldwood's drying. Now I didn't realise, but this bit here is actually kind of flesh, torn flesh from a wound. So I've just gone back over that, and what I'm going to do now is take some Wraithbone. I've thinned it down. It's probably 1 part paint to 1 part water, and I'm just going to paint this. Now it's really thin, so what we're doing is we're just going to follow those kind of creases you've got in the muscles, leaving that Skeleton Horde in the kind of the deep recesses, and it'll give us a nice kind of transition. We'll put another highlight on later to get that real pale look, but really we're just looking for volumes of muscles here, and where we've got those sharp edges, and all these membranes as well, I'm painting them over with the Wraithbone and making sure that they've got a nice solid colour of Wraithbone in there as well, just because we're going to put more contrast on them later, so it'll help it take, and it'll help us get the effect we want. So work your way all around the model getting that done, and then we'll come back and do the final highlight next. Things are starting to take shape with this chap now. So what we'll do is we'll do the next highlight on the skin, and I'm going to use Pallid Wych Flesh for this, and again this is thinned down quite a bit. And we're going to do exactly the same thing with this as we did with the Wraithbone, just using probably slightly less of the Pallid Wych Flesh than we did Wraithbone. Again, it's really thin, so it'll just kind of tint the top colour. and we want to highlight all those kind of raised edges as well, because it'll give us the highlight, because we're kind of underpainting for when we put contrast paint on here later. So what we're doing is we're working our way around, getting all those kind of sharp edges, and it may be that once we've got everything done and we've finished the rest of the model, we come back in with some white scar just on those most raised areas. So again, work your way around, get that done. It's a fair bit to do, and then we'll come back and we'll start to look at some of the wing membranes. For all these membranes, it's nice and simple. Just take some Guilliman Flesh contrast paint straight from the pot and just work it over. If you make a mistake like I just did, clean your brush off and just thin it out a little bit. So just paint them all on, let that dry, and then we'll come back and highlight them next. Once that Guilliman Flesh is dry, you're going to take some Flayed One Flesh, and I'm using a very small brush here. What we're looking to do is we're looking to kind of catch all the raised bits. By just drawing lines like this, leaving the darker colours in the recesses. And you can do as much or as little as this as you want. It's entirely up to you. But it just helps enhance the colours on the wing. So get that done on all the membranes, and then we'll come back and we'll make a start on the darker purple areas next. Right, let's tackle this purple. So this is going to be on the hands and on the legs. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a very similar technique that I use with the darker brown. So you need two brushes here. You need one that you're going to paint with and one that you can come in and move colour away with. So we're starting with the same mix. So it's 5 parts contrast medium to 1 part Shyish Purple. And I'm just going to paint this over the foot just quickly. And then what I'm going to do, and make sure you do like 1 part at a time, so I'm going to take my clean wet brush and I'm just going to blend that up a little bit towards the knee of the monster, just kind of blending it upwards, blending in that colour. So do that on the hands, do it on the other foot as well. Don't worry so much if it's pooling at the bottom of the foot, because that's going to be the full kind of dark purple. But you see there, you've got a nice little blend start off with. Just move it around and move it down. So obviously I made a mistake there, so clean your brush off and just move it around. And if you make too many mistakes, you can just go back in with that highlight colour to clean it off. But get that done, let it dry, and then we'll come back and we'll start to build the colour up. Once that Shyish Purple is dry, we're going to use the same mix, and we're basically just going to kind of go back over some of it, doing the same thing we did before. So get it painted about halfway, like that. Clean your brush off, and then just blend it a little bit using the wet brush, like that. And what we're going to do is we're going to keep doing that till we've got the colour we want, and we've got a solid coat of purple right at the bottom. Same for the fingers. And then once you've done that, I mean, you might take 3 coats, I think, looking at this. Then we'll come back and we'll highlight it up. So it did take me 3 coats of the Shyish Purple and contrast medium. So let's start the highlighting, and we're going to use some Genestealer Purple for this. And all we're doing is we're looking to catch the kind of the raised edges, so we can brighten this purple up, and that will help it blend back into the skin a bit better as well. So just work your way around getting it done. You see, I've done the other areas where I think the Genestealer will work and make a difference. So get that done, and we'll come back and we'll add a light to highlight again. The last highlight we'll do on the purple is with some Slaanesh Grey, which I've thinned down a little bit. And what we're looking to do is just catch in between the kind of the Genestealer, all the kind of ridges, the raised areas. And this will help bridge that gap as well between the lighter colour and the purple. So you can use it to just, because it's quite thin anyway, you can just use it to glaze over maybe some of these areas. And it just helps them all kind of blend and mix in. So again, carry on, do this over all the kind of bits of purple you'd already highlighted with some of the Genestealer Purple. and then we'll come back and we'll have a look at the these bits in here, which are kind of a reddy colour, before we kind of blend all the skin together and start work on the face, and that'll be towards the end of the model then. So we're going to use contrast paint again for the wings, and we're going to use a very similar technique to the one we've used all the way through, except we're going to use Flesh Terror Red for this one. So what we're going to do is I'm going to paint this about halfway up. I'm calling it wings, I'm not really sure. I think perhaps it was meant to be wings, and then it's just got stunted in whatever horrific process has gone on. So just painting it in there like that, and I'm going to clean my brush off. Make sure that I've taken all the excess water, and I'm just going to brush that down and play around with it until I get the difference in colour that I'm looking for, kind of blending towards that arm a little bit. And I'm doing that on both sides as well. So you can see I've done it there, and that'll give you that kind of nice easy transition without too much hassle. When that Flesh Terror's red is dry, you can just go back to a little bit of Flayed One Flesh to highlight it. And what you're looking to do is just from about halfway up, just paint down into the shoulder, so it just blends back in. And you can do a few crosses as well, just to get the shape and design of that membrane if you want, but that looks pretty good from there. So he's looking pretty gruesome so far. So I think what we'll do next is we'll do all the talons and claws, because they're quite a big bit, and then we can go back and focus on the face a little bit before we bring everything together, get some of these blends a bit better, and just add some stark highlights. So there are quite a lot of claws on this chap, so we're going to base them all with Abaddon Black. So we've got obviously the claws on the feet and going around here. So just be careful around those areas where you've already finished. See, my Abaddon Black's a little bit thin, so I may have to go and put 2 coats on. And don't forget, do the teeth as well, because we're going to kind of finish them in the same effect as this to give them that kind of sharp look. So work your way around, get it done, and then we'll come back and we'll highlight them all next. First highlight we'll do on the claws is going to be a little unorthodox, but hopefully this will work and help make them look nice and sharp. It's a bit of Stegadon scale green. What we're looking to do is just catch those raised areas and those sharpest parts. So kind of the top half and the bottom half, and this will give it some nice separation from the kind of the purple around it as well, and it'll work quite nice because we're going to use a really bright colour to finish those off and make them look really nice and sharp. So get that done on all the claws, and then when you're happy, we'll come back and we'll pop that lighter highlight on. Making pretty good progress now. So what we'll do is we'll start to work on the face, and we'll get those scars done next. And the colour I'm going to use for this is Magos Purple. Now I'm using it straight out of the pot, but I'm not actually thinning it down very much at all. Just really would have helped if I'd actually opened the pot of paint before I started recording. So my apologies for that. So start again. So use a Magos Purple straight out of the pot, but make sure you haven't got too much on your brush. So firstly, I'm just going to work it over all that scar tissue, and you can see that it starts to make it look quite ganky, which is nice, and because we'll be able to go in and highlight. So we're going to go and just fix everything in a moment as well. Now, in terms of this Magos Purple, I'm also going to use it around sort of some of the features here on the face, around the kind of the teeth and the jaw, I guess, because again we're going to go in and we're going to highlight a lot of this. So just work it into the nostrils, work it around the eyes. It just gives you a nice subtle colour that we can highlight off, and there's all these kind of scar areas as well on the head which we can paint in with the Magos Purple, like add into that kind of terrifying aesthetic that this chap's got going on. So get that done, work it round. I don't think we need it anywhere else. That's kind of the only areas. Let it dry. So we'll come back in and we'll start to highlight up next. We're really on the kind of the final steps now. So let's highlight the face then. We're going to go back to Pallid Witch Flesh, but this isn't as thin down as it was before. We're going to pick up all the sharp edges that we've got, because we've got a few, and if you're like me, you've probably been a little untidy with some of them. So just want to work back in, making sure we've got all the raised areas, things like around the teeth, for example, going across to the eye. Nice and simple, because it's these nice easy highlights that'll give us the most kind of bang for your buck, if you like, in terms of what the final image will look like. And the other thing I'm going to do as well, while I've got this Pallid Witch Flesh on the palette, is I'm going to move along here and just kind of catch some of these areas where the purple starts and just highlight into the purple a little bit, because that'll just help bring the whole thing together, as well as any kind of areas I may have missed before, tidying up things like along here. So get that done, and then we'll come back, final highlight, and we're pretty much done. So the last little bit of a highlight I'm going to do is on the face with a little bit of white scar. Now, you can just use this quite sparingly and just use it along the kind of the most raised areas. So we've got the brows kind of going up the ears. And the other thing you can do as well, if you want to make them a little sharper, is you can just pop a little bit on some of the teeth just to give the impression of sharpness. Same for the other claws. And same for any other raised bits along the model, to be honest. If there's anywhere you think, do you know what, that's quite raised, so if we look at this bit here, for example, maybe we'll work in a little bit of white scar just along the edges, certainly above here along the bone up there. Just work it in. Work your way around the model. I'm going to put 2 dots for the eyes and I'll show you how to do them next, but other than that, this is pretty much finished. And the easiest thing in the world is to do the eyes, so just make sure that white is dry, and then take some Iyanden Yellow contrast paint and just paint over the eyeball. Nice and simple, just like that. There we have it. This Vargskyr is done, ready for the tabletop to create nightmares and tear into your opponents. I really hope you've enjoyed the tutorial. If you have, please leave a like and a comment down below. It really does help me make sure the content I'm creating is what you want to see. If you'd like to support me, you can do so using the links in the description. There's a link for my Patreon where you get exclusive access to me via my Discord, as well as a live frequently asked questions show on YouTube, some exclusive content and various other little bits of giveaways. You can also use the link for Goblin Gaming where you get up to 20% off all your wargaming needs, and there's my links for Amazon as well where you can see my recommended equipment. Normally at this time I'd say thanks for watching, I'll see you next time. I really am grateful for you watching, but I hope you can indulge me. It's been a tough week at Painting Coach HQ as I pay tribute to my best boy.